Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tech Summit podcast. My name is Francisco.
I'm Chris.
And for tonight's episode, this is going to be episode 13, as a matter of fact.
Unlucky 13.
Unlucky 13. But very lucky for you that got to watch this at a very chill time.
Of course, remember, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, social media will be right over here. Those who are listening to us on other platforms will find that information in their respective descriptions.
Yes. Tonight we actually have quite a lot to talk about, and one of those things actually has to do with a little bit of drama.
Yes, very unlucky stuff has been going on. We have some unfortunate things to talk about in this episode.
Yes, it has to do with unboxings and hardware, and I hope you guys are starting to put two and two together, but it appears that YouTubers from Hardware Unboxed were banned recently from receiving reference graphics cards from, well, not reference, but Founders Edition graphics cards from Nvidia because their videos in the past were literally the video from like right before had focused on rasterization more so than ray tracing, and they weren't happy about that, so they ended up just cutting them off from receiving any more graphics cards as a result, which is beyond ridiculous.
So we heard about this news because Hardware Unboxed decided to leave a comment on one of their videos, which I found on Reddit r/Nvidia. Don't go there. Just stay off Reddit entirely.
Yes.
But nevertheless, we are quoting directly from Hardware Unboxed. Nvidia have officially decided to ban us from receiving GeForce Founders Edition GPU review samples. Their reasoning is that we are focusing on rasterization instead of ray tracing. They have said that they will revisit this should your editorial direction change. More to come.
That sounds incredibly sassy and passive-aggressive to me.
I absolutely hate that. They are more or less asking directly for them to change the way they are dealing with this kind of content.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, as content creators, we should have full control as to how we make our videos. And the companies reach out to us, it's because they want to work with us in the way that we usually work. At least that is the assumption. Sometimes companies in general might have their own requirements or like things that they would like to see, which is perfectly fine to ask for, in my opinion at least. But I don't think that they should have control over for example, the reviewer's opinions on the matter just for the sake of job security in the future. Now, I'm not saying that they won't be able to review any more graphics cards in the future, because I'm sure that they do have the means to do so. But it is definitely an inconvenience, and it kind of brings to light a bit of an issue regarding just what you are allowed to talk about and what you're not allowed to talk about, just in order to stay in good terms with companies.
It's really concerning. I mean, one thing that is actually rather nice is just how much support has come out for Hardware Unboxed since then.
For sure.
You know, Linus has already made their video. Several other publications have. And the comments section on their latest video, which ironically enough is covering the ray tracing in Cyberpunk 2077.
Right after.
As of recording today, December 12th, they put out a video specifically focusing on ray tracing right after they got banned for not talking about ray tracing enough. So I do think this is probably going to change, hopefully, because there's clearly a very negative backlash going on here. But if I can just think for a moment here, who the hell excuse me. Who the hell do Nvidia think they are? There we go. Who the hell do they think they are? Where do they think they get off doing this kind of like bossing around? You know, it's like, okay, so I understand. Nvidia is focusing a lot on ray tracing with these new cards. Cool. They want people to focus on the ray tracing because they want to sell the cards. Cool. What cards do they have to sell?
They don't have any. I think they just want to help the scalpers out.
It doesn't make sense. Like, Nvidia has no position whatsoever to be talking about this.
I agree. I just think that this is a very petty reason for doing this. Like, in a way, a part of me kind of thinks that there's more to it than just that, they were focusing too much on rasterization. But it just seems incredibly petty. Like, why would you restrict probably one of the most detailed benchmarking channels out there from being able to test your cards when, I mean, performance has been pretty great across the board. Deep learning has been great. Ray tracing has been great, and this is stuff that they're talking about. It's not like they broke some kind of contract or anything. At least I don't think so. Rasterization is still a form of rendering that they should be able to talk about. I mean, like for people that won't be using ray tracing, for instance, and just want the extra boost in performance, because ray tracing will bring down performance, and then if you turn it off, you can get a lot more frames per second usually. I mean, remember when ray tracing first came out for like Battlefield 5, for instance, ray tracing would have the frame rate entirely, and that was already like a pretty massive performance. If now it's gotten better, it's not quite as intensive, it seems, but like it's still something that affects performance, and not everybody cares about ray tracing. Some people just want the extra power. So I think it makes perfect sense for them to talk about rasterization and also talk about ray tracing as well, but I don't understand why they can only talk about one versus the other. Though in this comment here,
yes,
it does say that it was because they were focusing too much on rasterization versus ray tracing, but that does not appear to be true.
of course, we're going off of hardware unboxes here. I want to see what the actual email is. Honestly, it sounds like the actual email might have been even more threatening. Like, hardware unbox is trying to be rather professional about this here.
Yeah, I mean, like there had to,
like,
it just had to be a longer email for sure.
The one quotation, the one thing that actually seems to be quoted directly from them is,
Yeah.
should your editorial direction change? Which, again, is very scummy.
It is.
Is extremely scummy to essentially withhold these kinds of things from people. Not even because they're giving negative reviews of your product. It's not like they're trashing NVIDIA cards or trying to like claim that AMD is so much. They're not doing that. They're just focusing on another part. NVIDIA is selling a graphics card, not a ray tracing card. There are multiple facets to this thing.
Yeah.
Why not focus on those things?
Yes. And it's not like they're neglecting one for the other. They still ended up covering ray tracing literally just a day after all of this happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And very detailed as well.
Yeah. There's no way that they could have just gotten all of this done within the span of when they got scolded by Nvidia versus when the video regarding ray tracing got released. So I don't understand what the issue is here.
The issue is
it is very complicated, and I mean we do pretty much only have these few comments to go off of, since we don't have access to the entire conversation. We only know what Hardware Unboxed ended up posting up, but it is just very, very disappointing to see Nvidia doing this.
I just have nothing. I just have nothing at the current moment. It's like it's really difficult for me to really look at this without thinking just about how NVIDIA is going like really off the deep end with this, while at the same time not even having the cards in stock. It's not, because it feels very much like a marketing tool. You should they're clearly trying to control the people who review their products because they want to use it as marketing as opposed to actual reviewing or critique, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same way how you might blackball someone because they give you a negative review of your product, stuff like that.
Right.
And NVIDIA is seemingly trying to do that, strong arm their, tech reviewers into only focusing on one thing so that way they can sell the cards based on that. But there are no cards to buy.
Yeah.
It's not like...
You bring up a great point.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense to me. The most recent card they came out with was a 2060 Ti.
3060.
3060 Ti, thank you.
Yeah.
And that one was complete.
That one sold out right away also. Like, there's just no winning here. I don't... Right.
It's just NVIDIA again.
Yeah. Of course. I think we do have that sound effect. There we go. Okay.
NVIDIA deserves a womp womp at this point. And one of the most interesting things I find is that the little womp womp sound is, in fact, in NVIDIA green.
Ah, fantastic.
It is in NVIDIA green.
100% on purpose, people.
It's just an awful thing. Now, obviously,
Mhm.
Nvidia is not the first manufacturer or company to try and strong arm critics in these kinds of ways. Happens all the time in like movies or video games or other pieces of tech. Of course, MSI had their own troubles a couple months ago, albeit a little differently.
Yeah.
So, what do we do at this point? Like, what is the logical conclusion here?
I would say hashtag boycott Nvidia, but we hashtag can't because they have no hashtag stock that we can boycott. Hashtag boycott. That is.
Also in the case of Nvidia, I need a Nvidia card for hashtag work.
Which would be great. Now, granted,
I mean, I have seen quite a few comments on r/Nvidia, people saying that they're going to jump ship to AMD after this. And, by all means, go ahead, because for games, AMD is doing just fine. They're offering a better value.
right.
You do have some drawbacks, like their ray tracing isn't quite as advanced as Nvidia.
Mm-hmm.
Cyberpunk 2077 does not support AMD's ray tracing
Yeah.
for whatever reason. But at the same time, it's an excellent thing for people to jump in on. The problem, of course, is if you want to do, once again, GPU rendering with Octane or Redshift or whatever it may be, you need RTX cards.
CUDA cores. Also, you need
You
an
need the CUDA
RTX card.
cores from an RTX card.
Or just an NVIDIA card in general.
GTX,
But
yeah, that's right. GTX, the old hotness. Or
Yeah.
GT, if you want to go real far back. You want to go real far back, GT.
GT.
That was my original card, GT 550.
Oh my goodness, top of the line. It's it is definitely a nostalgia trip, I'm sure, for those that were using 500 series graphics cards at the time. I didn't even know what a graphics card was when those graphics cards were popular, in all fairness.
I remember I bought that card specifically as an upgrade for my ATI 2600 XT.
Interesting.
And I thought, hell yeah, I'm going to play all these games now. And I got maybe an extra 5 frames on Just Cause 2.
Oh, wow. So you already knew how to build computers then at the time?
No, I had someone else do it for me.
Oh, okay.
And all we did was just swap graphics cards. That's all we did.
Yeah. Honestly, a graphics card swap is like one of the easiest things that you can do. If you're going to upgrade your GPU, it's just as easy as...
It's just funny, though.
Yeah.
I made that tiny move, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to play all the games now. I'm going to be all good. My Windows Vista machine's going to be able to run everything.
Woo!
It's $50 graphics card. Because I think at that point we were well into the GTX series.
Oh.
Because this was 2014, 15?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was already like GTX 970.
Exactly. I was very far behind in that instance. I couldn't afford anything.
Yeah, like we were already around the 900 series. Wait, so if that's the case, then... Wait, that wasn't that long ago then. I was thinking that it was like maybe like early 2010s, but
no,
not quite. No,
we were in the mid
middle.
2010s. Then I shifted over to the 1050 Ti that I have now in 2017. In 2017, in 2017, and as of this coming week, a certain summit is going to be helping me out with building the new machine with a 3070 in it.
Yes, Summit 1G is going to be helping Christopher over here to build no, I'm kidding. It's going to be Tech Summit, the only summit here. We're going to be building an RTX 3070 with the Ryzen 9 3950X.
3950X.
Yes, I got it right this time.
3950X.
I always forget
64
that.
gigabytes RAM.
Yes, of course.
Some power supply stuff, 750 watts.
750 watts.
Yeah, the less glamorous parts here.
Yeah, that might require an upgrade eventually, but that's just eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah, like no need to fret over it now necessarily.
The SSD did come in, albeit a little mangled. Like the box was like dented in, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh,
and then
jeez.
I open it up, and it is perfectly safe.
Okay.
Perfectly safe.
You scared me. You did that on purpose.
The hard drive was also extra bubble wrapped as well. It was extra bubble wrapped and put in a separate box inside the box.
Okay, that's good.
To protect it.
That's good.
Everything except for the motherboard is there. But of course, my PC building woes does not help Hardware Unboxed get unbanned from NVIDIA. So
unfortunately, no. And it doesn't bring stock back. If anything, it just takes stock out. Because with that said, I think everybody knows my history by now. I tried really hard to get a 3090. And then not that, I mean, a 3080. And I also checked to see, like I was going to splurge. I was going to be like, you know what? This GPU upgrade could be useful. So let me just try to aim for 3090, I guess.
Okay,
But I'm actually happy that it's sold out before I even managed to to click one button.
okay, but whatever happened to that 3080 that you bought in the streets?
Oh yeah, I did buy that 3080 on the streets. I do mention the story a lot because it is pretty funny. A friend of mine has it because I ended up getting the card for him, and he loves it. He absolutely loves it. He has no issues with it. He says that it runs like butter. And now we actually use his older GTX 970 machine with a 4790K for that matter and 32 gigs of RAM. So we're running DDR3 and all that stuff all the way back there, like just so that we can edit the podcast.
Exactly, on the Tech Summit Research Center.
Yeah, the Tech Summit Research Center.
And editing, I guess, yeah.
Or lab, I guess,
Yeah, the Tech Summit lab computer.
Yes, with the Yu-Gi-Oh corner.
Oh, you didn't have to bring that up.
Yeah, it was a secret that I was planning to withhold up until specifically December 12th.
Anyway, but yeah, so, this is all just a really unfortunate situation that's going on here with Hardware Unboxed. And especially because for a channel that's blowing up, because like the screenshot here has them with 649K. We're looking right now at their live count, 669K. They gained 20,000 subscribers in a single day. And I'm not sure how much of that is a result of the controversy and how much of that might just be the channel itself already increasing in, notoriety as it stands. Like,
I'm sure that a little bit of that came from this whole controversy,
right.
Considering that usually that kind of thing does help. But
of course, the thing we also have to note here is that it's a channel that is blowing up.
yeah, this is a great channel.
But it's also a channel that exists. That's the thing, too.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a channel that already has a notable following and had enough attention from people like Linus and others. Imagine if NVIDIA were able to just swing their object around and just shut down smaller channels that don't have that following and don't have that leeway or the ability to get Linus to come out and make a video or a statement about it. Like
with Nvidia going, everybody, you better dock because I'm gonna swing left.
Like, just imagine what can happen there. That kind of censorship that can happen.
No, yeah.
Just use another example. Like, we're not saying that you're a small channel. Tech Summit is not necessarily a small channel. Tech Summit recently got 10K subscribers.
Which, again, like, thanks to everybody for helping me get there. But we are still a small channel.
Okay,
in the grand scheme of things,
I want it to be.
Okay
I want it to be nice. I want it to be nice. But Tech Summit is a relatively small channel. Francisco? What would you do if NVIDIA were coming down to you and telling you now, just enough, you can't do this anymore?
I would genuinely be sad because Nvidia is like such a big company. It's so important. It's something that, like, if I were somehow receiving graphics cards from them, like that would mean a lot for the Tech Summit channel because it means that I can actually talk about these graphics cards like exactly on launch day with like tons of details and that kind of thing. Like imagine having that taken away from you, especially when, I mean, Hardware Unboxed is specifically, well, mostly dedicated to like PC hardware reviews. Like they do CPU benchmarks, GPU benchmarks, and that kind of thing. Like this channel is pretty big, I would say, because of that. And imagine like if I had built my channel under those same merits as I am now, and they took that away from me, considering the GPU shortages that, like, it's not like if NVIDIA just decides to pull out that, oh, I can just go out and buy my own. No, I can't.
You can't.
No. So it is a straight up punch in the gut. It's something that would hurt pretty bad.
You can't even do anything about it necessarily because, like, you are a smaller channel. You don't have the attention and notoriety from other major, publications like J2 Cents or Linus.
Exactly.
Like, they wouldn't be able to help you out. This is a common thing for a lot of other channels. Like, there was a couple months ago, what was it, that SpongeBob anime from, like, Narmac Animations, I believe.
What happened there?
Yeah, he put out that SpongeBob anime, and then he got taken down by Viacom.
Really?
I believe, or was it Viacom or YouTube themselves? No, I think it was YouTube themselves actually that took it down because it wasn't kid friendly necessarily. And I guess YouTube automatically dubbed it as, oh, it's animation, it must be kid friendly.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and that became a huge thing. And
not concerned.
Narmac was already nearing 1 million subscribers at that point, so he had that sort of fan base and the notoriety of other people to where everyone was able to talk about it and get the videos back up. Again, and that's someone that's notable. How many people are smaller channels with smaller amount of subs and stuff like that who are putting these things out and then end up getting taken down, and there's nobody that's able to help them?
Oh yeah, like it is a lot. A lot of them that go unnamed, a lot of them that go unrecognized, unfortunately, and there are just a lot of fundamental issues with YouTube regarding that, specifically them just taking down videos. And then
just so I'm clear, Tech Summit, Francisco from Tech Summit, has anything like this ever happened to you? Period. Have you ever gotten like a threat or like taken down or some sort of false strike? Anything?
I've received copyright claims, but that's different from a strike. So no.
Well, I mean, copyright claims are also still bleh, but
yeah, but it's also not really so much YouTube's fault because I will admit that whenever I have gotten copyright claimed, it has been my fault. Because I mean, I probably shouldn't have had that song on there on that video.
Matter. It doesn't. It's not you're not making money off the song. You're making money off the video.
Off of the video, yes. But unfortunately, current laws do allow copyright holders to issue copyright claims whenever something like that happens. And trust me that I appreciate a copyright claim over a strike. Most companies would actually rather claim however much money you're going to make off of that video using their soundtrack versus just taking down your video altogether, which would essentially just be a straight up strike.
If you edit the video to remove the copyrighted material, does the copyright claim go away, or does it stay there? Period.
The claim goes away, and I can actually speak from experience. So, this episode actually comes out right before my review of the HomePod Mini. But this was actually an issue that I had in the process of uploading the HomePod Mini. The HomePod Mini review was just had just been uploaded to YouTube, but it doesn't mean that it was published. It was just a draft, a draft video, which means that it's just in limbo. Nobody but you can see it. And I still received a copyright claim before the video was even public. Yeah, like that was just insane. And that was absolutely ridiculous. I was just like, how did they even get to this video when it's not even public?
I don't like that at all.
But YouTube does at least give you the opportunity to actually trim that portion off on YouTube. So it's not like you have to take down the video and re-upload it, which I was very grateful about. And it is really nice that they have that feature, but that almost feels a bit invasive.
It is very invasive.
But in a way, like there's a pro to it, and it's that I got to find out that I shouldn't have had that song on there before the video went public, and then they started making money off of me already.
I don't know. Copyright law just in general just needs to be revised for the internet age. It has not been really fixed in, 20 years at least now?
It is pretty old.
The Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So it needs to be fixed significantly.
Yeah, but now it is important to mention that what happened here with Hardware Unboxed is really just a company being extremely petty.
It is atrocious.
Yeah, and hopefully they can restore that relationship with Nvidia at some point without having to make changes to their editorial direction, because that would be insane.
Nvidia needs to simply just figure their crap out. Like I don't. I feel like Nvidia has way bigger priorities to focus on right now. I feel like you can agree with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There are way bigger priorities to focus on rather than someone who is not even negatively talking about their cards, but simply just focusing on another part of them that they don't like. Just
showing the numbers. That's all.
If you don't want them focusing on the rasterization, is it possible that you're just insecure of your rasterization? Like, like no, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
I'm like, no, please. No, like, that's not what we make these cards for. And we make it for ray tracing. Everybody wants to ray trace.
Yeah.
Trace their rays. But no, I think that this is just incredibly petty, incredibly stupid, and I hope that it never happens again.
Right.
Will it happen again? Probably, but it is a good thing that much more notable YouTubers are actually talking about this, and hopefully this is something that can get rectified without Hardware Unbox having to change the way that they make content or the way that that they make in video content in particular, because they do a wonderful job. People appreciate their input. I very much appreciate their input. I've been a fan of their channel for years now. So hearing this, seeing this was just very disappointing, incredibly random. It's not like they really did anything wrong here from what I can tell. So yeah, very much disappointing. However, there's something else that is relatively disappointing, isn't there?
Is there?
I think that there is. And that is going to be Cyberpunk 2077 performance on console.
How would you know? You haven't been playing Cyberpunk.
That's right, but I've been keeping an eye out. And I've been listening to you talk about that. So why don't you tell us how that is actually, since you did actually try out Cyberpunk on console also, right?
No, I have not tried it on console. I've been playing it on PC exclusively.
Oh, only on PC. Okay, my apologies.
I have kept my eyes to the ground, like
like all the way down.
Just on the about the ear to the ground rather. I have my ear to the ground when it comes to the console performance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go for it.
So, as previously noted, the card that I have in my current PC build is a 1050 Ti. So I kind of knew going in that I wasn't really going to be able to run it super well.
Mm-hmm.
With
the Ryzen 3, by the way.
With the Ryzen 3.
Yeah.
First gen.
First gen.
Ryzen 3. I think it was a 1300.
Oh yeah, 1300X. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So Ryzen 1300X.
Yeah.
GTX 1050 Ti, 16 gigabytes RAM.
Okay, I like the RAM.
So
how's performance?
So yeah, Cyberpunk is officially released, and the discourse online has been very, very interesting. Mostly that everyone out there either loves it, hates it, and I want to hope that throughout all of this discourse and yelling and shouting at each other, that there can be at least some level of nuanced opinion here on the Tech Summit podcast per moi. Now I will say, using my machine, I did not expect it for it to run very well. However, I'm also kind of surprised at just how not well it runs. In order to get anything above 20 FPS, I seem to mostly be running it on the lowest settings possible.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, when I'm driving out in the city, because I didn't play super much. I played, my game time is listed as 6 hours, but I think more appropriately, I got maybe 2 hours worth of content.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little less than that.
Because some of the time was spent on the character creation.
The pause menu.
Yeah.
Like if I have to go do something else, the game is paused, it's still running.
Messing around with the settings too.
Optimizing. There was actually a point where I reverted my save just so I can experience it a little bit more without going too far. Because of course, when we do build that new machine, Francisco, you are in fact going to be showing us some benchmarks and performance runs.
I am indeed going to be doing that. So that is going to be, again, the 3070 with a Ryzen 9 3950X.
And 64 gigs RAM.
And 64 gigs of RAM. So,
right.
So let's just see how that fares.
Similarly, we also are going to be differentiating because currently I'm running it on the specs that I am in 1080p. We're going to be running it on those new benchmarks in 4K.
Yeah. So it's time to see those frame dips.
God help us, yeah. Yes. We're also, of course, we will be playing around with ray tracing and DLSS.
Hey Siri, turn RTX on. Imagine that. I would love that so much.
Anyway,
but yeah, somewhat off topic.
So as it currently stands, the game that I'm playing is running on low, usually around 20 to 30 frames per second. In smaller areas or corridors, as
at 1080p,
as low as often dipping into around 10-15 frames per second when I'm driving around the city. There are even a couple of moments where the game seems to have to think about the dialogue that the character has to say next, and will dump as low as 2.
Oh no. 2 frames per second.
2 frames per second. The game will freeze as Jackie considers what he has to say next before he puts in the next piece of Chinese food.
Oh my goodness. How long until it gets to seconds per frame?
Very soon, I imagine.
Very
There-
soon.
there- And the
Okay.
thing is, now granted, it's not necessarily unplayable, but there are certainly points where I was just like, I do not want to play this right now.
No, yeah.
Which it's,
like,
it's unfortunate because deep down inside, there are the nuggets of a good game, a really good game. And I love the aesthetic of Cyberpunk in general, so I was very excited for this game for that reason. I've not actually played The Witcher 3,
mhm.
so like I
highly
wasn't,
recommend it.
I imagine totally. But like, so I just want to put that out there so that way people don't think I was excited or I'm a shill for CD Projekt Red because I've never really played a CD Projekt Red game beforehand. I'm in this for the aesthetic, all lowercase, space between every letters, aesthetic.
And FOMO. At least a little bit of FOMO.
There was a
no?
little bit of FOMO. There was also a little bit of desire to run benchmarks on it with the new PC.
That too. That too. I appreciate that.
There's-
Thank you.
It's like, oh crap! I guess I gotta put down $60, no, $59 because
Oh.
I traded enough Steam trading cards to get $1 worth of Steam wallet credit.
Woo.
So yeah, $59 for Cyberpunk. Was it worth it at the current moment? Not really.
But hopefully it will be once we actually have that new PC up and
course.
running, and it should be like just based off of other benchmarks that we have seen with a weaker CPUs as well. I don't think that it has been a Ryzen 9. And yeah, like I think it's going to be pretty exciting, and I
Now-
think that you're going to have a very big jump in performance.
Of course. At the same time, though, we also have to acknowledge one of the biggest criticisms that are coming into CD Projekt Red's wheelhouse is going to be the bugs.
The bugs,
There are quite a few bugs.
yes, he did mention a
Um,
T-posing character.
Yeah, so there was one point in the game, early on in the game, I ended up in the club, and I saw a character who was T-posing. Not doing anything, couldn't really interact with them. They were just T-posing. You know, I didn't even notice it at first because it's a relatively dark room. It's a club. You know, you're focusing on other people.
Mhm.
And I turn around, and all of a sudden, I'm like, that character seems a little oh,
Wait a second, is this
to T-pose.
the developer's room?
My favorite part is that I walk a little bit in that club. I just walk around a little bit, and then not too far away, I find the exact same model T-posing yet again.
Oh no.
That one I was actually able to interact with. So you have them T-posing, and they start speaking towards you. Is there something wrong? You know, yes, there is. What you looking at?
How can I T-pose like you?
I want to learn the T-pose, man. That's got to be the newest dance craze, man.
You see, it is only going to be a DLC gesture, and that you have to unlock over time.
Isn't it a gesture in Destiny?
I actually don't know.
It might be a gesture in Destiny.
to like T-pose.
Just the T-pose, yeah.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of like Praise the Sun in Dark Souls, where
Right.
you have to put your arms up, but like just bring them down by like 35 degrees.
Yeah, twist them like that. There
Oh
you
yeah,
go.
you have
That's
to
much
twist
better.
them.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're making a character with the T-pose like this, you're doing it wrong. You got to do it like this, guys.
Yes.
Either the T shape or the A shape. You can't do it like this. This you get a bad rig that way. 3D tips from Chris. Just
3D tips from Chris 101.
okay, but there are a couple of other smaller bugs that I say smaller, but in reality it's kind of immersive breaking. There's a lot of times where I'll turn around and you'll have like 5 or 6 characters just pop in. Not even including the texture pop in, which of course is a thing. When you boot up the game, the textures are really rough, and this is on PC. That's the thing to keep in mind. This is on PC. Now, granted, my specs are not very high. They're considered low tier specs at this point.
Yes. In other words, it's not meant for. I want to say like the more budget
With
1000 series graphics cards,
With that said, we need to acknowledge the elephant in the room,
which is
and that is that Cyberpunk 2077 has been advertised for many years now, or at least at the very least these last 2 years, as being a game for the PS4 and the Xbox One,
right.
not the PS5 and Series X.
Right.
PS4 and Xbox One.
Yes. And how does it perform on those intended platforms?
From what I have seen and from what I have heard, legendarily bad.
I want it on Switch now.
There was
Oh, you just had to do that. You couldn't just have me laughing alone. You see, now I really want it on Twitch because I want to see
on
how
Twitch.
on Switch, I said.
Oh, you can get plenty of Cyberpunk 2077 on Twitch, you know.
Oh man, if you wanted it early too, that was another big deal. But anyway, no, I want it on my Nintendo Switch now, and it better perform at 10 frames per second. I will not have it at any higher than that.
So part of the discourse of Cyberpunk really is just how badly it runs on PS4 and Xbox One. It runs extremely badly. You're sub 30, oftentimes sub 20, very very often, and at least on PS4, there was a point of texture pop in that one image that went around in particular where the texture pop in was so bad it looked like a PS2 game, like an early PS2 era game.
That's horrible.
Very very
That sounds terrible.
very very bad. It's actually surprising too that you have textures that look like that in a game, because I feel like this is where I want to learn about how game development works, because I feel like you should have more resolution on your mesh before you can apply normal maps. Like, I don't see how you can apply a normal map on a mesh that low poly and still come out looking good.
Yeah, that sounds
3D magic.
yeah.
If you want to
3D
have
magic.
really good looking models, you should probably have a decent amount of polygons. Not too much. You can't have millions of polygons because then it's not going to run properly. But
Yeah.
at the same time, still have a decent amount of polygons. Still have the basic shapes of, like, say, for example, a nose and a face and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then apply a normal map afterwards to include the skin texture, additional details, wrinkles, and all that stuff.
I think that they just got stuck probably trying to somehow optimize for both consoles when they both perform so drastically different. Clearly.
I don't know. I'm just very curious to see how that particular technique was done. You know, that's but in general, you still want to have a reasonable amount of polygons. That has been another 3D tip from Chris.
I mean, in due time, I think we will find out exactly, like how it was that they went about making these models, or maybe like what were some of the development hurdles, or maybe what were some mistakes that they made along the way that caused it to be so unoptimized for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. But like, okay, here.
This is the other thing to keep in mind too. The game was delayed specifically for those versions.
And Stadia, I think.
And Stadia possibly, but
Yeah.
like the biggest thing was that the game got delayed another month, or 3 weeks rather, in order to fix that. It is very clear, both from the PC and especially the console versions, 3 weeks were not going to fix the game.
Yeah.
The game should have been delayed further. I understand a lot of people would have been really, really upset about that. They probably would have been saying death threats again, but the game needed to be delayed further because all they really did was just crunch their developers further for an additional several weeks, and it still comes out with a bad product that a lot of people are unfortunately blaming the developers for. This is not the fault of the developers. This is the fault of, like,
The publisher
or the investors who are insisting on having a product out at this point for the holiday season.
Now.
That's why December 10th was chosen as a date, clearly. They needed to make it come out. They needed to release it before the holiday season.
Yes. Now, do you know what's the funniest thing about this whole thing? It apparently performs better on Stadia than it does on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4.
Well, that's because Stadia is running off of, like, good computers, isn't it?
Yep.
And then you use the internet. So it's obviously, if you have decent internet, yeah, sure, play it on Stadia. But
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, but I guess that the point that I'm trying to make with that is that, like now, this is a bigger incentive for wanting to go the cloud gaming route. Yeah, I know that you're not that into the idea necessarily, at least at the current state.
for the current moment, yes, Stadia might be the best way to play Cyberpunk if you do not have, like, at least a 20 RTX card.
Yeah,
And even then,
like a 2060 is still.
I was about to say, as we saw from Hardware Unboxed video published today, December 12th,
Yeah.
about the ray tracing and just performance of Cyberpunk, yeah, a 20 card, especially 2060 and 2070, you're going to really struggle. Sure, if you have something less than that, something less than a 3000 series straight up, maybe Stadia is the best way to go about it. But even then, I don't know. I just feel like the game is just really not optimized to. I mean, it's just a very demanding game in general. Like it.
Yeah.
Like if you look at videos online, you know, seeing the game run with ray tracing in 4K on Ultra, it looks beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful piece of software.
Yeah.
The problem is that you need so much in order to run it. It just feels like it's not quite optimized very well because, again, you're advertising this thing for PS4 and Xbox One, which would be relatively on par with, say, a 1060 or a 1050 Ti, whatever it may be, give or take. And the game to run so badly when that's what it's being advertised for. And I think they know that the bulk of people who are going to be buying this game are going to be buying it on a PS4, not a PC. Especially with the way that they've been marketing it. They're not marketing it as some, like, you know, RPG. They straight up don't even call it an RPG anymore. It's called an action adventure game. They're clearly trying to ape it, sort of paint it as a futuristic GTA. That's going to have a lot of console players specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So for it to come out like this is not cool. Again, I'm not blaming the developers in this, and I do not like the fact that these developers have to go through all this crunch. Like, I do not like that. I do not condone that. This is me speaking, not necessarily text on my podcast. This is me personally, my personal views here leaking out. I do not support crunch of developers. As someone who wants to work in a 3D industry, whether it be animation or games, crunch is not great. I don't like it. And yeah, so I'm not going to blame the developers. I'm not blaming the developers here. But it just seems ridiculous to me that they even originally, they were aiming for an April release. Consider that.
Yeah.
They were aiming for an April release. They release it 7 months later, and it looks like this.
Which means that they must have been crunching almost the entire time.
How did they look at the game and the state that it was in and think, yes, we can say safely, yes, April is going to be the release date for this? No.
Well, the T-pose will fix itself.
Personal opinion.
What's up?
Release. You have one release date. We'll say November. We'll just say November as the release date, and then you delay it one time into 2021.
Yeah.
When you don't say. Let's use another developer as an example right now. Let's look at 343 Industries. Halo Infinite.
Okay.
Halo Infinite had its demo, and people were criticizing it for the graphics.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. I remember that.
People were not criticizing it for anything else. People were just criticizing the graphics and how the graphics looked really weak.
Right.
And they delayed Halo Infinite indefinitely. And we only recently, this past week, found out that it's going to be released somewhere in fall 2021. So we're talking about a full year delay. And keep in mind, that was the flagship launch title for the Series X.
Yeah.
And they were ballsy enough to delay it, even despite how fervent the Halo fanbase can also be. You know, it shows that CD Projekt Red should have done something similar to that. I understand that it would have been really rough, but at the same time, with how much hype that Cyberpunk had, keep in mind, Cyberpunk had way more hype than Halo Infinite does.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I feel safe in saying that Cyberpunk was one of the most anticipated games of all time at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
So for it to come out like this, it's like, it's again, deep down inside there is a great game. I know there's a lot of people are talking about various other things. They're talking about how the RPG stuff has been toned down really badly. You have a lot of people talking about how the AI in the game is really bad, which I'm also not going to disagree with that. I've had a couple instances where the cops just act really funky towards me. Like, I backed away a while prior, and they were still there was a point where there was a police line. I said, let me cross this police line, which I knew was obviously going to get them looking at me and, you know, raising some issues with me. They tell me to back away. I back away, and they go back to their thing. And I'm far away, and then they point the gun at me again. I'm just like, guys, what?
I thought it was fine a second ago. What happened?
It happened to me another time, too. Like, I sort of got in their way while they were trying to investigate some guy's apartment or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I back away again. They go back to normal. They immediately turn around, they shoot and they kill me. They shoot me dead right there.
I think they're just mad that you were running a 1050
So
Ti.
there's a lot of...
Yeah,
the wrong one. I hit the wrong one anyway. So yeah, there's a lot of problems here. Like, there's a lot of discussion that can be had about the actual gameplay mechanics and the design philosophy that may or may not be good. There's a lot of discussion that can be had about that, because I know a lot of people who are very disappointed that they were hoping for an RPG, and that's the RPG mechanics seem to be like on the level of Fallout 4, if not even weaker than that. There's a lot to be discussed about there.
Right.
The problem is that before we can discuss any of that, we have to discuss the fact that the game is very buggy. The game is very unoptimized. The game does not function on last-gen consoles. Now, they did release a patch. A day or two after the game launched, they did, in fact, release a patch that meant to do a big hot fix. And the list of things that they were fixing were, like, there were a lot of Quest fixes that they actually needed to do, on top of the graphical things, the AI stuff. And for people who are playing on PS4, base PS4, not PS4 Pro, mind you, on base PS4, they're saying it is a marginal improvement.
Oh,
that
wow.
It is, in fact, a significant improvement. The game does run better, or at least the texture pop-in is significantly better now. Or, you know what I mean? Like it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah.
So we're in the step in the right direction.
It's playable now, at least.
I don't know about that.
Really?
I don't know. It's quite a ways to go on PS4, and that's the thing that I have to consider too. Cyberpunk is a fantastic looking game when it works and when it runs on like high-end PCs.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks and runs so badly on PS4, the same system that got you The Last of Us Part 2, which, say whatever you want about the game itself, it looks visually stunning. God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2, which is just, that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this discourse when it comes to Cyberpunk seems to really have a lot of people being more appreciative of Rockstar, because a lot of comparisons that I've seen is comparing Cyberpunk to GTA 5. Or to a lesser extent, Red Dead Redemption 2, because it came out just 2 years ago.
Yeah. But
there's a lot of people comparing things like how the police respond to you in Cyberpunk, comparing it to the way that they do in GTA 5. Same thing with NPCs. That's another thing, too. In NPCs, there was one point I was in a dark alleyway, and I beat someone up because they were starting to beat up somebody else, a domestic incident here.
Yeah.
And I beat the guy up, and I saved the day, and I got a thank you and stuff like that. I come back out, and you have all of the NPCs. Don't hurt me. The entire area is full of NPCs, even going way far from where I was when I punched the guy. You have people just sort of crowding around in fear, and they're not doing anything else. It's not like they're getting ready. They're not like stopping and like going back to normal. Mm-hmm. They're not doing anything. No. They're just cowering in fear, except for the NPCs that are programmed already to be doing something else, like the ones who are working out, or the fat guy who's banging on the vending machine. People who have played the game probably already know what I'm talking about. Very early on in the game, so it's like astounding that things like that are just not functioning properly. Obviously, of course, these things will be patched.
Yes.
These things will be repaired.
Yeah.
The question is, will it be on sale by the time it gets repaired? Like for example, Steam Summer Sale. Will it be half off? I don't think so. But
half off? No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So like, there's definitely a feeling for a lot of people that we should have waited a little bit longer. I mean, I personally don't like paying $60 full price for games to begin with, but like this just further reinforces it. It's a shame because I do think this game can be worth $60 when it's all said and done and ready. Problem is, that's probably, how long is that going to take?
Yeah.
It's entirely possible the game's not fully fixed until we have a Game of the Year edition with all the DLC and expansions in it, and that's like $30.
And just imagine when every AAA game is costing $70 instead of the $60 that they
Don't even
cost
get
now.
me started. I want to talk about that one in the future.
Yeah, obviously, we're kind of out of time, but thanks to all of you for jumping in tonight. It has certainly been a very informative episode for that matter.
No, that's right.
But with that said,
a brief moment.
Go for it.
I also wanted to just offer a slight update for some people out here, just to make sure real quick. Francisco's PS5 watch, still nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
No, honestly, I won't even try until stock normalizes.
I know. I mean,
yeah.
We will talk about it in the future, but I actually did get my hands on a PS5 to play it. I don't own it. My friend actually let me use it, but I was able to experience it. And I do want to talk about it a little bit because I do think there's quite a bit of potential in this machine for the future, but that's for another time.
Yep.
If you guys are watching on YouTube, the social media will, of course, be right here.
And of course, if you would rather listen instead of just watching our ugly faces, then just make sure to take a look at the description, since we do have links to Apple Music, Spotify, Anchor, and much more.
And of course, if you're on those platforms, watch the stuff over there. We have the descriptions there. But with that said...
Yep, that's it. It's been Francisco.
And Chris.
And until next time, enjoy.
Good night. Travel well.